Welcome back to Just Ask George. David Wolf, co-dude with the head dude, George Lovato Jr., BH Capital, the merchant banking firm extraordinaire.
With the man, the legend, co-dude, co-pilot, wingman, and also Firewolf.
Thank you. I'll take it. All those wonderful things. Thank you, George. In our last episode, we talked about debentures, introduced the idea of these are debt instruments that point to the people inside a corporation, nowhere else. And look to that if you haven't seen it. In this one, we're going to expound on the concept of debentures, and you have a story to tell from the management perspective or from your perspective.
Yeah, almost kind of on the edge of stupid without a license when we go there from time to time.
Yeah.
Had a BH Capital affiliate come to me, and they said, look, there's this really big law firm that's involved in going after pharmaceutical companies when, something's happened to people, bad things have happened to people. And so they work on a contingency or percentage. It's personal injury. They do a little slip and fall kind of stuff, but that's really their kind of main meat and potatoes.
So there's no professional retainer. There's no hourly fee involved.
Right, exactly.
In terms of the revenue model.
So they develop these clients. These clients walk in the door. They kind of assess what the claim is, and then based on that, then they kind of have a spreadsheet of the way they book it, in estimating how much and how long it'll take. All right, so I have financed some law firms before over the years, and they're just, and I work with some of the greatest lawyers in the country, but sometimes they're hard to work with, because they're we've got to work this agreement out, and they overprocess agreements, and sometimes, I get you got to document stuff, but sometimes there's a little bit too much, turning the wrench and not enough swinging with a hammer. So anyway, I told this affiliate, I said, I really don't want to take these guys on. I don't want to have to, because first, they're never going to sign my agreement because, as you know, it's an as-is agreement. I don't modify it. You sign it.
They wanted to modify it or have the ability to change it.
Yeah, one conference call, they're trying to, one of the elder statesmen in the firm was trying to, can we change this? I said, no. I said, I already had this conversation with everybody else in the company. I don't change it. It is the way it is, and it's to protect me. I really don't care about you because I'm the one that's sort of hanging the como se llama over the edge. And so, okay, fine. They move along. And anyway, the discussion came up that they wanted to expand this business and buy a lot of advertising and kind of regionalize the firm.
Okay. An intense regional marketing initiative.
And it was going to be expensive. It was probably going to be in the $3 to $5 million area.
Sure.
Well, when you've got a law firm that works on contingency, there are no receivables. There's no billings out there where people were paying back their hourly charges.
Yeah.
There's no invoices.
Right.
So there's, you got this big case log, but you don't have quote unquote assets.
So so the question becomes, how do you fund that?
Exactly.
That idea, the initiative to do this marketing, which is a periodic expenditure.
Right.
Okay.
So in talking with them, I said, look, guys, a bank isn't going to loan you this kind of money. I said, your credit strength and your net worth really can't handle that kind of oompah. And as a result, this is really the only way to finance the expansion.
Okay.
And that's going to be with debentures. Well, there was sort of blank, pale looks on their face like they didn't know what it was. And they didn't, and they admitted that. And then once I explained how a debenture works, then they said, well, where are you going to go? Who's going to buy this stuff? I mean, asking like, who's going to buy our debt? Which kind of made me laugh a little bit. And I said, you're going to pay a higher than commercial, LIBOR. It'll be a lot more than LIBOR. I got a guy.
Right.
And it's going to be somewhere around LIBOR. It's going to be more than LIBOR. And it was just... It was lost on them. Okay, and these are lawyers. They're educated people.
What did they not get about it? Just
well, the first thing was, we were asking for $3 to $5 million in debt, but we don't know that would work. Well, you came to me and to ask me how I would finance you. So I'm telling you how would you know if you don't know now?
Right.
If you haven't been able to finance your opportunity.
Yeah. This is a personality quirk about, and it's an interesting story about that, too.
Yeah. So I said, okay, guys, the interesting thing here is you're over-processing. I'm telling you what you need. This is where it's appropriate. You've had a good history of the money you have borrowed. You've paid back. You guys are good, upstanding guys in the community.
Right.
And, it was okay. So they did all these are lawyers. And so they did their due diligence on me, which was it was comical. It was absolutely, I was laughing virtually out of my chair when I was getting reverberating calls from my other clients out there. I got a call from this law firm.
From the Tombstones?
Yeah.
Don't try this at home, folks.
Yeah, and they're saying, I got a call from this lawyer at a law firm, and they were asking me what we paid you. And I basically told them, I'm not telling you that.
Right.
It was a $25 million transaction, and whatever he's charging you, he's charging you. I'm not going there. That's my business. And they were very intrusive. Okay. Yeah. And so, if you ever, I noticed that there's debt. There's a tombstone here that talks about debt. Did you use debentures? And the response was, in this one particular due diligence interview,
sure.
Yeah, that's what it says. That's
so it actually says debentures on the tombstone.
Right, or it's a debt obligation or something like that, or bonds or whatever. So they made a bunch of these really intrusive phone calls, and they were really angering quite a few of my clients, existing and former.
Aye.
And so then they came back and they said, okay, well, we still don't understand this.
It's not quite. It's not. It's pretty simple, actually.
It is very. It's a very simple concept.
To the definition.
Yeah.
The definition again, and we hit this in the last segment, but just for those of you that haven't seen it, bonds not secured by any specific property, but issued against the general credit of a corporation or government. So it looks to the entity, not
good faith and credit of the company, which means it's all about the people and their past history. So,
done.
So anyway, long story short is I drop kicked him and said, guys, we're never going to be able to get to the promised land with you, because if this is what you go through to make decisions, we'll be making decisions on decisions and having meetings on meetings while we're trying, the opportunities slipping away.
The over-processing word is appropriate.
But the story points to the fact that it was a perfect instrument, okay, for them.
Yes.
And I really did get the fact that there's this expanding opportunity to sue pharmaceutical companies. And you see the ads on TV all the time.
Absolutely.
And when I talk to some of my lawyer buddies that are, and they're not as big as this firm is or wants to be, they said, the more you advertise, the more business walks through the door.
So you do see that correlation, and that's another reason why this works.
It was an excellent business plan. It was an excellent business plan.
Yeah.
So, and they were really good at what they do. So if you gave them money, we were trying to figure out the metrics, which would have been a very long process, as to how much money you spend in advertising in all these different sources, and what kind of additional traffic does it generate, and then over and above that, where does that take you in terms of closed cases, timing, all that stuff, and when how you get paid?
Sure.
So there was all kinds of metrics behind that. It was going to be very complex in terms of the analysis that needed to be done to figure all that out. But it was perfect. It would have fit them perfectly. But it just sometimes, as I say, if you find out that you don't have a coachable client, if you can't educate them quickly and efficiently about something that might be a little sophisticated or complex for them, if you can't do it in enough time, you're never. It's not a good thing. So you've got to pass.
Oftentimes, and I found this from my affiliate banking inbound leg experience with prospects, they come to you with a pre-described or preconceived structure,
right?
And there is either a resistance or a pushback or an inability to take in a new idea about how to do it. It happened just the other day when I asked him, well, I kind of went through what's your entity, what's the form of the entity, and I could tell he didn't quite know where I was going with this. Ultimately, he disclosed in an email that he really didn't know what the ideal form of entity would be, and that's part and parcel, to use your to what we do. It's core to what we do.
And I always
help them with that, you know.
And you and I kick this around all the time in that if they knew what they needed, they would have been able to,
Exactly.
And so sometimes the more complex or sophisticated methodology that's needed, because it's what they need. It's like Bill Curtis says in the video.
Yeah.
He had a preconceived notion of what he needed.
Right.
And we came in and did something entirely different that he did not expect.
Right.
And it had better results. He said, this works infinitely better than what I was thinking about.
Well, you're not a finance professional,
and so
in any of these cases where they want to know but they don't know and they're unwilling to open to the experts, and so this is sort of the inner life of sort of the emotional component that we deal with in working with a client.
And
emotional
so
and decision
the messages for our listeners out there is that sometimes this particular type of instrument, although you may not have ever heard of it before, is very appropriate, and it's more than likely what you need. In the other segment, we talked about where it is applicable.
Yeah.
And you can go back to that segment and listen to that. I won't be redundant here, but you got to be open, and this method of financing has been around literally forever, since the beginning of the finance universe. So it's just morphed into different structures and applications. There it is.
Always extraordinary, always informative. BH Capital's head dude, George Lovato Jr. George, thanks again.
A man.
Just ask George.
A legend.
Thank you. We're at www.bhcapitalltd.com. Don't forget to look for the new ebook that's interactive ebook.
Oh yeah.
And,
go to obstaclecoursebooks.com.
Obstaclecoursebooks.com.
How to finance your business. So take a peek there. It's getting a lot of really solid response.
We'll see you next time. George, thanks as always.
See you, bud.
Bye, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.